In the middle of the galaxy, there was a shining space station called Harmonia. It was not a place for trade or war. Harmonia was built for art and music. People from many planets came there to perform, listen, and share their cultures. Every year, the biggest event was held, the Grand Galaxy Recital, where only the best musicians were invited to perform. This year, the station was brighter than ever. Lights danced on its surface, and music floated in the air. Inside, alien artists with strange instruments prepared for the recital. Tall ones with glowing skin, short ones with 4 arms, and others who communicated through sound waves. Harmonia looked like a concert from a dream. And into this world of talent and fame arrived a simple woman from Earth. Her name was Lena. Lena wore plain clothes. She had soft brown eyes and tied her hair in a simple braid. She didn't have body enhancements, glowing suits, or robotic assistants like others. She stepped off the Earth shuttle quietly, carrying a brown wooden case in her hand. Most people didn't notice her at first. She walked slowly, looking around with quiet wonder. Everything around her was new. Lights, colors, music styles far different from her small hometown back on Earth. But Lena didn't look nervous. She just smiled gently and followed the signs to the performers' hall. Inside the rehearsal lounge, artists were tuning their instruments. Some played on floating sound panels, others adjusted vibrating light strings or used sonic gloves that created music in the air. The room buzzed with energy, competition, and excitement. Lena sat in a quiet corner and opened her case. Inside was an old, polished viola, a string instrument slightly larger than a violin. She touched it like an old friend. It was passed down from her grandfather, and she had played it since childhood. The wood had marks from time, but the sound was still warm and beautiful. As she began to tune the strings, someone noticed her. Tall figure in blue robes walked over. He had pale silver skin and eyes that glowed faintly. His name was Vero, a famous conductor from the planet Serenth. He had led sound symphonies across 3 galaxies and was known for his pride. Artists respected him, but many feared him too. Vero looked at Lena's viola. His lip curled slightly. "Is that made of wood?" he asked. Lena nodded kindly. "Yes, it's from Earth. I brought it to play." Vero raised an eyebrow. "You brought wood to a concert of light and sound?" A few others nearby laughed. One artist with spinning metal discs whispered, "Must be a beginner." Another added, "I didn't know Earth still used string instruments." Lena didn't respond. She gave a small smile and kept tuning. She didn't seem angry or hurt, just focused. Vero folded his arms. "This is a high-level performance, not a school show," he said. "You should not embarrass yourself in front of the galaxy." A staff member came in and announced, "Final list for performers will be shared tonight. All rehearsals will begin tomorrow morning." Lena thanked her and quietly left the room with her case. The other artists watched her go, whispering and chuckling, but not everyone laughed. A young technician named Ben, also from Earth, had watched the scene from the back of the room. He didn't say anything then, but something about Lena's calm made him curious. Later that evening, Ben was walking through a quiet corridor on Harmonia Station when he heard soft music echoing down the hallway. It wasn't loud or sharp. It was gentle, like wind through trees. Curious, he followed the sound. At the end of the hallway, in a corner near the maintenance area, he saw Lena sitting alone. She was playing her viola. The melody was slow, deep, and full of feeling. There were no lights, no background visuals, no tech, just wood and strings. But the sound, it was pure. It made Ben stop and listen. He felt something stir in his chest. Not just ears hearing sound, but something deeper. He thought of his childhood, his mother's lullaby, a rainy day back on Earth. The music brought back emotions he hadn't felt in years. When she finished, Lena noticed Ben and gave a small, polite nod. "Sorry if I disturbed your work," she said softly. Ben smiled. No. That was beautiful. I've never heard anything like it here. She shrugged. It's just something I used to play for my grandfather. Nothing special. Ben shook his head. It is special. You should play that in the recital. Lena looked unsure. The others have such grand setups. Light walls, space flutes, sound. Engines. I only have this old thing. Ben smiled wider. Maybe that's what makes it special. Yours comes from the heart. Lena looked down at her viola, then back at him. For the first time, a little confidence flickered in her eyes. The next morning, the rehearsal hall on Harmonia Station was filled with activity. Artists from many planets were warming up, testing instruments, adjusting sound settings, and practicing their parts. Some used hover screens, others had floating drums, and a few used their own bodies to make music like a being from Rexus, who played rhythms by moving its wings. In one corner, Lena quietly opened her viola case. She gently checked the strings and sat down on a simple metal chair. Her face was calm. She didn't try to compete with the noise around her. She just waited for her turn. The hall was huge, like a concert arena without seats. There were no walls, only invisible sound barriers that made sure each performer had their own space to practice. The lights on the ceiling changed color slowly, matching the mood of the music around the room. Suddenly, the door opened and a tall figure entered. It was Varro, the famous conductor from Serenth. His long robe shimmered with soft blue lights, and his assistant followed behind, holding a thin tablet with notes and names. All sound seemed to lower as Varro walked through. People respected him, not just for his music, but for the power he held in the music world. Varro had once led a choir that echoed across a moon's surface. Many believed that if he praised a performer, their future would rise quickly. Varro's eyes scanned the room. He nodded at a few well-known names, offered short comments, and finally reached Lena. She looked up and gave him a polite smile. Varro raised one eyebrow. "Still here?" he asked. "I thought you would leave after yesterday," Lena answered softly. "I came to rehearse." Varro looked at her wooden viola and gave a small laugh, not loud, but sharp enough to cut. "Did no one tell you? This recital is not a village fair. You can't charm the galaxy with a toy." A few nearby performers chuckled, some nervously. One alien with silver ears whispered to another, "Does Earth really send people like her?" Lena stayed quiet. She didn't argue. She just adjusted her viola. Varro stepped closer. "Listen carefully. This event will be broadcast to over 40 planets. The Galactic Culture Board is watching. I don't want the name of this recital to be spoiled by an out-of-place human playing forgotten wooden strings." Still, Lena said nothing. She simply replied, "I will do my best." Varro turned and walked away, clearly annoyed. His assistant gave Lena a quick glance and then followed him across the room. Ben, the young technician from Earth, was checking some sound panels. He had seen the whole exchange. He clenched his jaw but didn't step in. He knew it wouldn't help right now. Later, he met Lena in the station cafe. It was a peaceful place with glass walls showing stars outside. He handed her a warm drink and sat across from her. "You okay?" he asked. Lena nodded. "Yes, I'm used to being laughed at. You shouldn't be," Ben said. "Varro may have awards, but he doesn't have heart." Lena smiled a little. "That's kind of you." Ben leaned forward. "What he doesn't know is that music isn't just about sound. It's about feeling. And you have that. I felt it when I heard you play last night." She looked at her drink quietly. He added, "Promise me one thing. Don't stop. Don't hold back because of people like him." Lena met his eyes and gave a small, determined nod. That evening, the performers were invited to a welcome event in the Harmonia atrium. It was a large, round hall with a transparent ceiling showing the swirling colors of a nearby nebula. A soft melody played from hidden speakers, and floating lights drifted above the guests. Artists mingled, greeted each other, and talked about their work. There were drinks made of glowing fruit juice and a table full of snacks from different worlds. Lena stood alone near a corner, holding a small glass of blue tea. She didn't know many people here. Most of the performers formed their own groups, talking in different languages, laughing, and showing off small samples of their talents. Suddenly, a screen appeared in the air, and the event director, a round robot with gold trimming, floated in. "Good evening, respected performers," it said. "The performance schedule has been finalized. All artists, please check your assigned order." A bright list appeared in the air. Names in all languages lit up line by line. Ben helped Lena find her name. There it was, performance number 20. Lena, earth, instrument. Viola, wood. Ben whistled softly. "You're last," Lena blinked. "Last?" Ben nodded. "That means you're the final act, the closing one." Others noticed too. Whispers began. "Who's Lena? Why is Earth string player closing the recital? Must be a mistake." Vero approached the director bot and whispered something sharply. The robot calmly replied, "The order was set based on the auditory balance algorithm. Her instrument's tone will complement the entire program's close." Vero frowned but said nothing more. Lena stood quietly. She didn't ask to go last. She wasn't trying to be special. But now, all eyes would be on her in the final moment of the show. Ben looked at her with excitement. "This could be amazing," he whispered. She didn't look scared, just thoughtful. "Then I will do what I came to do," Lena said gently. That night, as the lights on Harmonia dimmed and soft music played through the air systems, the station dreamed of the coming recital. Every performer was preparing, practicing, perfecting. And somewhere, in a quiet room with a view of the stars, Lena played again. The same soft melody from before. No lights, no machines. Just a simple human sound. And beyond the window, the stars seemed to pause and listen. To be continued. Morning came gently to Harmonia Station. The space outside was dark and endless, but inside, the lights changed to soft gold to tell everyone a new day had begun. Lena sat by her small window, holding her viola in her lap. She had been awake since early morning, thinking. The stars outside looked peaceful. No noise, no judgment, just light and silence. She liked that. She ran her fingers across the smooth wood of her instrument. The same one she had played since she was a child. Every scratch on it had a story. Every sound it made was a memory. She smiled quietly and began to play, just for herself. A soft tune filled her room, gentle like the early light. It was not loud, but it was full of something that didn't need volume. Feeling. Meanwhile, in the main rehearsal hall, the other performers were busy. Alien musicians tested their devices, some standing inside glowing circles, some connected to sound wires that read their brain waves. There were singers with 3 voices, floating orbs that changed color with every note, and digital waves forming pictures in the air. Vero, the famous Maestro, was in the center. He was leading a rehearsal for the opening act, using the hand baton. Made of crystal, his assistants followed his every word. Each sound was exact, each note perfect. He liked it that way. When someone played a wrong note, he stopped the whole group. "Again, you must be clean," he said. His eyes were sharp, his face serious. He looked around the hall. Everyone was watching him. That made him feel calm again. In this place, he was in control. Later that day, Ben, the young technician from Earth, made his way to the observation deck. It was a quiet area with soft chairs, perfect soundproofing, and a large window facing the galaxy. He had brought a small music recorder with him. He wanted to listen again to something. Last night, Lena had let him record her practice session, just a short piece. Nothing fancy, but something about it stayed in his mind. He placed the device on the seat beside him and pressed play. The violas. Soft notes filled the space around him. They weren't perfect like Varro's grand productions. There was no background music, no layers. Just one sound, warm and real. As he listened, he felt it again, that strange feeling of being pulled into the music. Like walking through memories. Like sitting beside a fire on a cold night. It reminded him of his home, of people he missed, of quiet moments that had no words. He looked around. A few others in the room had paused too. One alien with long ears had tilted its head toward the sound. A robot assistant had stopped cleaning and sat still. Even machines could feel something. Then whispered to himself, "Why does it touch people like this?" That afternoon, the pre-show meeting was held in the main conference hall. Every performer had to attend. The event director hovered to the front of the room and began speaking. "You are the best of the best," the robot said. "This recital will be seen by leaders, thinkers, and artists across space. Remember, you are not only playing music, you are sharing your world." Everyone clapped politely. Then came final reminders. Time limits, light settings, translations for nonverbal acts, and positioning on stage. Lena listened carefully. She wrote notes on a small pad, while others used high-tech lenses or recording pens. Then, someone raised a hand. It was Vero. "I request a final adjustment," he said. "I believe the last performance slot should be given to an experienced artist, not someone with traditional Earth methods." The room became quiet. All eyes turned to Lena. The director replied in a calm voice, "The schedule has been finalized." The closing slot was chosen based on harmonic sequence and energy flow. Varro didn't look pleased. He nodded, but his eyes were cold. Lena didn't speak. She simply looked down at her notes and took a quiet breath. Later that evening, the performers had free time. Most used it to fine-tune their instruments or rest. A few went to the Harmony Garden, where plants from 50 planets grew under artificial sunlight. Lena chose to go to the Echo Chamber, a small space designed for solo practice. It had perfect sound and silence. She sat alone, placed the viola on her shoulder, and began to play again. But this time, she wasn't alone for long. Ben appeared at the door. He waited until she stopped. "I brought someone," he said. With him was a soft-eyed alien named Mira, a sound historian from the planet Oryx. Mira had listened to Lena's earlier recording and asked to meet her. "I wanted to hear you in person," Mira said, stepping forward. Lena smiled kindly. "You may sit if you like." Mira sat down, and Lena began again. This time, her song was about space and distance, about home and being far away. It had no words, but it spoke clearly. Mira closed her eyes, and when the music ended, she stayed still. Then she whispered, "That sound, it feels like sunlight in winter." Lena didn't know what to say. She only smiled. Ben grinned. "I told you. There's something in it. Something the machines can't copy." Mira added softly, "When you perform tomorrow, I believe many will remember why music was born." That night, in rooms all across Harmonia Station, performers dreamed of applause, fame, and perfect notes. But in one small chamber, a simple woman from Earth dreamed of something else. Not being better, not proving anyone wrong. Just sharing her heart through strings and sound. And far out in the stars, something seemed to listen. To be continued. The day of the Grand Galaxy recital had finally arrived. Harmonia Station was filled with a new kind of energy. Holograms floated in the air, announcing the event. Messages from across planets streamed in, asking for live links. Ambassadors, musicians, scientists, and even poets from different worlds had arrived to watch the greatest performance in the galaxy. Inside the main performance hall, everything had been prepared perfectly. The seats were arranged in a circle around a wide-open stage. The ceiling showed a live view of space stars twinkling above, while colorful nebulae moved slowly in the distance. Each seat had a small translation orb. No matter the language or form of communication, everyone would understand the music. Backstage, the performers stood in line, holding their instruments, adjusting their suits, or simply closing their eyes to calm their hearts. Among them stood Lena, her wooden viola carefully resting in her hands. She wore a simple dark blue dress, nothing fancy. There were no wires, no digital designs, no lights. Her hair was neatly tied, and she had a quiet look on her face. She wasn't nervous, just ready. Across from her, Varro stood in a group of elite musicians. He wore a long glowing robe of silver and blue. His baton was now upgraded with energy sensors, ready to command sound waves during his performance. He glanced at Lena and spoke loud enough for others to hear. I still can't understand how someone from a forgotten village on Earth ends up closing the show. Lena didn't reply. She looked at the floor and gently tightened her viola's bow. One of the other performers laughed. Maybe the board wanted something different, he said, clearly joking. Another added, yes, a bedtime story to end the night. Ben, who had come to help with the sound setup, heard it all. He felt his chest tighten with anger, but he said nothing. He walked up to Lena and whispered, ignore them, just play like you always do. She nodded softly, I will. Soon, the first act was called. Varro's group went on stage. Lights shifted. The ceiling above them turned into swirling colors that danced with the beat. Instruments sparkled. Varro lifted his baton, and a strong wave of sound filled the hall. It was perfect. Each beat, each chord controlled and sharp. The music showed power and pride. Some audience members clapped halfway through. Even the ambassador from Korath nodded with approval. Backstage, Lena listened carefully. She could not deny it, the performance was grand, polished, and skillful. But still, something about it felt far away, like looking at a beautiful painting. Behind glass. As the performance ended, loud applause filled the hall. Varro bowed deeply. He returned backstage with a proud smile, then looked at Lena. Your turn is coming, he said. Try not to put them to sleep. She simply smiled. I will try my best. The other performances continued. Each one had something new: fast-moving rhythms, laser-powered instruments, color-shifting sound fields, even a group that created music by moving water in mid-air. By the time the last name was called, the audience had heard 19 powerful acts. Then the director's soft voice filled the room. Our final performer. From Earth, Lena, instrument, viola. The lights dimmed. The hall became quiet. Lena stepped onto the stage, alone. No background screen followed her, no visual effects, no team. Just one woman, holding a wooden instrument, standing under a single spotlight. She walked to the center, bowed politely, and sat down on a small stool. At first, the audience didn't know what to expect. A few whispered. One ambassador adjusted her translation orb, thinking perhaps this was a stage error. But then Lena began to play. The first note was soft. So soft. Some weren't sure if it was the instrument or their own hearts. Then came the next note, gentle but sure. The viola's voice filled the space slowly, like a breeze entering a quiet room. It wasn't sharp or fast. It didn't shout. It spoke. She played a melody her grandfather taught her. A song passed through generations. It had no name, but it carried the feeling of home. The audience fell completely silent. As the music continued, something strange happened. The translator orbs dimmed. They didn't need to translate anything. Everyone understood. Every being, no matter what planet or species, felt the same thing. Peace, memory, connection. In the control room above, Ben watched with wide eyes. Even the technical team had paused their work. The music didn't need wires, screens, or effects. It needed hearts. He saw one alien with glass skin quietly wipe away a tear. Another, who had no ears, placed a hand over its chest. Varro, watching from backstage, stood frozen. He didn't expect this. He had trained with thousands of instruments, traveled to 10 worlds, used sound science in ways most never learned. But this was different. There was no perfection in her notes. But there was something even greater — honesty. When Lena played the final note, it hung in the air like the last ray of sunlight before night. She lifted her bow. The sound faded. For a moment, there was only silence. And then clap, clap, clap. It started slowly. One pair of hands, then two. Then more. Then all at once, the entire hall rose to their feet. A standing ovation. Applause like thunder. Not just polite clapping, but something deeper. As if everyone had been waiting to feel this kind of music again. Lena stood and bowed quietly. She didn't smile wide or raise her arms. She simply nodded, as if saying, "Thank you for listening." Backstage, Varro remained still. For the first time in years, he didn't have words. He just stood there, in silence, as the crowd praised the woman he once mocked. And Lena, the simple woman with a wooden viola, walked off the stage slowly. No need for lights, no need for fame. Because tonight, the stars had listened. The hall was still shaking with applause. Lena stood on the stage, her viola resting in her hands, as the crowd of beings from across the galaxy rose to their feet. Their hands clapped, their voices hummed, and their bodies moved in ways that showed one thing: respect. She had not expected this. Not at all. She had only come to share her music. She never imagined it would touch so many hearts. Even those who did not have hands clapped with soft movements, or sent out waves of color from their skin. Some sent warm light from their eyes, and others, from planets with no sound, pulsed gentle vibrations through the floor. It was clear. Lena had reached everyone. She gave a small, quiet bow, then turned and walked off the stage. Backstage, there was silence. All the other performers had stopped what they were doing. Even Varro, the proud Maestro, stood frozen. She passed them gently, not saying anything. She didn't need to. Her music had already spoken. In the waiting area behind the hall, Ben was waiting with bright eyes. When he saw Lena, he smiled so wide it lit up his whole face. "You did it," he said softly. "You really did it." Lena looked a little surprised. "I didn't know what would happen," she said. "I just played what I felt." Ben nodded. "That's why it worked." Suddenly, a staff member rushed over. "Lena, the Galactic Culture Board wishes to speak with you." "They're in the ambassador's room." Lena blinked. "Me? Yes, now please come. They asked for you directly." Ben gave her a thumbs up. "Go, you earned this." Inside the ambassador's room, it was quiet and calm. The ceiling showed a slow-moving galaxy, and the room smelled like soft flowers. 4 beings sat at a round table, each one a representative of a major world. One had long silver arms, one was a glowing ball of light, one was shaped like flowing water, and the fourth was a human woman in a soft white dress. They all looked at Lena with kind faces. The human woman stood and spoke first. "Lena of Earth, we wish to thank you. Your performance tonight reminded us of something very important, that music is more than sound. It is connection." The silver-armed being added, "Most use machines now. They perfect everything. But you showed us something raw, something alive." The water being flowed softly and said, "I felt the river of time in your song. Past, present, future, all in one sound." The light being flickered gently, and the translation orb said, "Your music made even silence feel full." Lena bowed politely. "I'm honored. Thank you." The human woman continued, "We would like to ask if we may share your music across the galaxies. Not for money, but as a gift, a reminder that sometimes the simplest sound is the most true." Lena thought for a moment and then nodded. "Yes, you may share it. If it helps others feel less alone, then I'm glad." Back in the main hall, the crowd was still talking about her performance. Some were sending messages home, some were trying to find recordings. Even Vero sat in a quiet corner, eyes closed, replaying the melody in his mind. His assistant came over and asked, "Shall we go, sir?" Vero opened his eyes slowly. "Do you know something?" "What?" "I spent my life chasing perfect notes. I thought greatness was in power, speed, and control." He paused. But that girl, she had none of that, and still, her music moved stars. His assistant said nothing. Vero stood up and walked slowly out of the hall. That night, Lena returned to her room. The stars outside were shining brighter than before. Or maybe it just felt that way. She opened her case, placed the viola inside, and smiled. There were no trophies, no medals. But there was something better, a full heart, a soft message beeped on her screen. It was from her hometown music school on Earth. The students had watched the recital, and they had sent a group message. "We saw you. You made us proud. We want to learn the same music too." Lena laughed quietly. Her eyes became a little wet. "But it was from happiness." She replied. "When I return, I'll teach you all. We'll play it together." The next day, Harmonia Station was buzzing with news. Headlines across galaxies read, "Earth music touches the heart of the universe. Simple woman, simple instrument, powerful feeling. Human viola song leaves." Audience speechless. Some performers felt surprised. Others felt inspired. A few even started to practice without machines again. Back in the quiet Harmony Garden, Lena walked with Ben. "Do you think people will remember this?" she asked. Ben smiled. "They already are." She looked around at the strange flowers and soft lights. "I didn't plan any of this. I just wanted to play like I always did." Ben nodded. "That's the secret, isn't it? You didn't try to impress. You just shared what was real." She laughed. "Well, real isn't always easy." "No," he said. "But it lasts longer." As the stars moved slowly through space, a single performance by a quiet human woman continued to echo. Not as noise, not as fame, but as feeling. In music halls across planets, people began to ask, "Can we play like her?" And in small towns, back on Earth, children picked up violins and violas with new hope. And Lena, she didn't become rich. She didn't seek fame. She simply went home. With her viola, her memories, and a heart full of something priceless, she had reminded the galaxy what music really means. A week had passed since the Grand Galaxy recital on Harmonia Station. But the memory of Lena's performance still echoed across planets and space stations. The soft sound of her wooden viola, once unknown, was now being talked about by artists, students, and even leaders across the stars. Not because it was loud or powerful, but because it was honest. And it touched the heart. On a space channel, a popular talk show host said, "She reminded us that music isn't only made with machines. Sometimes real beauty is found in simple things, like strings and hands." In the great city of Serenth Prime, where Varro lived, his face appeared on a screen during a live interview. The interviewer smiled and asked, "You've led sound orchestras across 5 systems. What did you think of Earth's final performer, Lena?" Varro sat quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I once believed music had to be perfect, flawless, and grand. But Lena's performance, it wasn't perfect. It was real. And that made it greater than perfection." The crowd watching the interview clapped gently. Varro continued, "She played from the soul, not the score. That is something every musician must remember." People were surprised to hear these words from him. He had been known as proud and strict. But now something in him had changed. He had learned something new from someone he once mocked. Meanwhile, Lena had returned to Earth. Her small town welcomed her with open arms. The music school where she once taught now had banners outside. "Welcome home, Lena, our star of Harmonia." Children ran to her, holding homemade instruments. Parents waved from the sidewalk. Even her neighbor, old Mr. Thomas, who rarely smiled, had come outside to clap. Lena stood quietly, a little shy, but her eyes sparkled. She wasn't used to this kind of attention. But seeing the joy in the faces of her students made her heart warm. Inside the school, her favorite classroom was still the same wooden chairs, simple music stands, a small piano in the corner. But this time, it felt full of hope. Later that week, Lena held her first class after returning. All the children sat in a circle. Some had violins, others had drums, and a few had nothing but homemade shakers. Lena looked at them and smiled. "Today," she said softly, "we won't just learn music. We'll learn how to feel it." One student raised her hand. "Teacher, how did you stay calm when the big Maestro was mean to you?" Lena thought for a second, then replied, "I didn't let his words enter my heart. I only listened to my music. I knew what I carried came from love." Another student asked, "Are you famous now?" She laughed. "Fame doesn't matter. What matters is that I played something true, and people listened." The class nodded quietly. They didn't fully understand everything, but they felt something special in her words. Outside Earth, in the galaxy's cultural network, something beautiful was happening. Many young musicians were asking to learn Earth-style music. They didn't want effects or sound machines. They wanted to feel like Lena had felt. In a space academy on the planet Una, a young alien with green skin played a string instrument shaped like a leaf. He was watched by dozens of students. They called his song Lena's Light. In another corner of the galaxy, a small music group named their tour Wooden Strings Across the Stars. Their opening song was based on the soft melody Lena played on harmonia. And on a quiet moon called Revia, a group of silent monks who had never used instruments before began learning the viola, just because they said her sound reminded them of truth. One morning, Lena received a message from Harmonia Station. It was from the director of the Grand Galaxy Recital. It read, "Dear Lena, we wish to inform you that due to high demand and interest, your performance has now been shared across 76 planets and translated into 128 languages. But more than that, your music has inspired a change in how we understand sound. For that, we are grateful. We also wish to invite you back next year, not just as a performer, but as a guest mentor for young artists. Thank you for reminding the galaxy that humans too carry music worth hearing." Lena read the message twice, then placed the screen down. She walked to her window and looked at the sky. The sun was rising slowly, golden and quiet. She held her viola gently in her hands. She didn't need fame. She didn't need awards. What she had now was bigger. Her music had crossed stars. Not by force, not by money, but by truth. That evening, she sat outside under a tree. The wind moved softly, and the birds sang around her. She began to play again, not for a show, not for an audience, but just for herself. The same melody from harmonia flowed again. And somewhere far above, maybe even beyond the clouds, the stars paused and listened again. Because now they knew the name of a simple woman from Earth who reminded the galaxy what real music is. Her name was Lena, and her song was still playing. The year passed quickly, and with it, the story of Lena and her wooden viola became a legend told across many worlds. On Harmonia Station, the next Grand Galaxy Recital was ready to begin. But this time, something was different. The hall was filled, not only with glowing instruments and advanced technology, but also with many simple violas, cellos, and stringed instruments, handmade and wooden. Artists from many planets had begun to learn and play in Lena's style. They wanted to feel the same honesty and warmth she shared with the galaxy. Lena herself was there, not as a newcomer or a nervous performer, but as a guest mentor. She walked the halls with a gentle smile, helping young musicians find their own voice. One morning, in the large rehearsal room, Lena sat with a group of students. They were from different planets, some with glowing skin, some with multiple arms, and some with shapes unlike any earth animal. She handed a viola to a shy young girl with blue hair. "Try to play the song I played last year," Lena said softly. The girl nodded nervously and began to play. The notes were not perfect, but they were full of heart. Lena smiled. "Music is not about being perfect," she told them. "It is about telling your story." A tall alien with long fingers stood up next. "Your music changed the way we think about sound," he said. "It feels like it brings everyone closer." Lena nodded. "That is why I play. To bring people closer." Meanwhile on Earth, Lena's hometown had grown. The music school was now full of students from nearby towns, all eager to learn the simple songs from space. One evening, Lena sat by the window with her grandfather's old viola in her hands. The stars twinkled outside like little lamps. Her nephew, a small boy with bright eyes, came in and asked, "Grandma, will you play the song again?" She laughed softly. "Of course, little one." She played the soft melody, the one that had traveled across the stars. The boy listened carefully and said, "One day, I want to play just like you." Lena smiled and said, "You will. Because music lives in your heart, not just your hands." Back on Harmonia, a great ceremony was held to honor Lena. The Galactic Culture Board presented her with a special award, the Heart of Harmony Medal. It was a glowing crystal shaped like a musical note. Lena accepted it with humility. She didn't think she deserved such honor, but she understood that her simple song had made a difference. During her speech, she said, "I never wanted to be famous. I only wanted to share a small piece of my world." I am grateful the galaxy listened. The crowd cheered. Some wiped tears. Some sent warm light beams as applause. Later, Varro approached Lena quietly. "I was wrong," he said sincerely. "You showed me that music is not just skill. It is feeling and truth." Lena smiled gently. "Thank you, Varro. It means a lot coming from you." He nodded. "I hope to learn from you." "Then let us learn together," Lena replied. Years passed. Lena's music traveled further. It was taught in schools, sung in cities, and played in quiet homes. Her story inspired artists to be true to themselves, to find their own sound, no matter where they came from or what instruments they had, because the galaxy learned that sometimes the simplest song carries the deepest message. And the woman with a wooden viola from a small blue planet became a symbol of hope, courage, and heart. One quiet night, Lena sat alone under the stars. She looked up and whispered, "Thank you." Because she knew, no matter where life took her, her music would always live on in the hearts of many, shining bright, like the stars above. And somewhere, far beyond sight, the stars listened, smiling. The end.